The observation deck of the Wandering Star hummed with the low thrum of ion engines, a sound that had become as familiar to Mira as her own heartbeat. She stood before a semicircle of 7 Vraken cubs, each no taller than her waist, their rust-colored fur bristling with barely contained energy. Their 4 eyes, 2 primary, 2 auxiliary, darted around the room like pinballs, tracking every flicker of light, every shift in shadow. "All right," Mira said, settling into a cross-legged position on the deck's cool metal floor. "Today, we're going to try something different." The cubs exchanged glances, their ear tufts twitching with what Mira had learned to recognize as skepticism. The Vraken were apex predators from a world where stillness meant death, where every moment demanded vigilance. The concept of meditation was, to them, as alien as the human before them. Kesh, the smallest of the group with a distinctive white patch over one eye, immediately flopped onto his haunches. "Different how? Are we hunting? Fighting? Racing?" "None of those," Mira replied calmly. "We're going to sit very still and focus on our breathing." The silence that followed was profound. Then, as if on cue, all 7 cubs burst into chattering clicks, the Vraken equivalent of laughter. "Humans," one of them wheezed between clicks. "You really are prey species." Mira smiled. She'd heard worse. 3 months ago, when she'd first been assigned as cultural liaison to the Vraken delegation, their pack mother Shara had warned her. The cubs would test her, push her, see if she'd break. Vraken society was built on strength, on action, on the constant dance of dominance and survival. But Mira had something they didn't: patience. "Your pack mother asked me to teach you," Mira said evenly. "She thinks you need to learn control, focus, the ability to be still when stillness serves you better than movement." That got their attention. Shara's word was law among the cubs. "Fine," said Kesh, though his tail lashed back and forth with agitation. "But this is stupid." "Noted," Mira said. "Now everyone sit like I am. Legs crossed, hands on knees, back straight." The cubs arranged themselves with varying degrees of compliance. 2 managed something approximating her posture. The others looked like they were preparing to pounce at any moment. Kesh sat with exaggerated mockery, his spine comically rigid, his small chest puffed out. "Close your eyes," Mira instructed. "That's how you get eaten." One cub muttered but obeyed. "Now breathe in slowly through your nose. Count to 4. Hold it. Count to 4. Breathe out. Count to 4. The sound of 7 Vraken cubs attempting synchronized breathing was chaos incarnate. Some huffed too fast. Others held their breath until they wheezed. One cub kept opening one eye to see if anyone else was cheating. Mira continued, her voice a steady anchor in the storm. "When thoughts come, and they will, acknowledge them and let them drift away like clouds. Don't chase them. Don't fight them. Just let them be." "This is boring," someone whispered. "That's a thought," Mira said gently. "Let it drift." Minutes passed. The observation deck's view screen displayed the swirling colors of hyperspace beyond, bands of impossible light stretching into infinity. Mira kept her eyes closed, kept breathing, kept counting, and then she heard it. A soft, rhythmic sound. Snoring. She opened one eye. Kesh had tilted forward slightly, his small body still upright in sitting position, but his eyes were closed and his mouth hung open. A tiny snore escaped him with each exhale. Mira bit back a smile. She continued the meditation, voice barely above a whisper now. Another minute passed, then another. When she finally opened her eyes fully, she discovered something remarkable. 5 of the 7 cubs had dozed off, all of them still sitting upright as if their bodies had simply stopped. Their breathing was deep and even. Their ear tufts lay flat against their skulls, a sign of complete relaxation she'd never seen in a Vraken cub before. Only 2 remained awake, their eyes now closed but their breathing still conscious, still controlled. Mira sat in silence, watching them. These creatures of chaos and constant motion, genetically engineered by evolution to never rest, never pause, never ceased their vigilance. They were sleeping, sitting up, trusting her, trusting the moment. The door to the observation deck hissed open. Shara entered, her massive frame filling the doorway, her adult eyes immediately scanning for threats. She froze when she saw the scene before her. "What?" she began, her translator struggling with the rumbling frequency of her native tongue. "What did you do to my cubs?" "Taught them to breathe," Mira said simply. Shara approached cautiously as if afraid to disturb some kind of spell. She circled the sleeping cubs, her nostrils flaring as she scent-checked each one. They were alive. Healthy. Just still. "Impossible," Shara breathed. Vraken cubs don't sleep sitting up. They don't sleep at all unless in a secure den, surrounded by pack, after physical exhaustion. "They do now," Mira said. Kesh chose that moment to emit a particularly loud snore, his whole body jerking slightly before settling back into stillness. Shara stared at him, then at Mira, then back at her cub. "How?" the pack mother demanded. Mira stood slowly, careful not to make sudden movements. "On Earth we have a saying. In stillness, there is strength. Your people are warriors. You're always moving, always ready, always vigilant. But sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when to be still, when to let the world move around you instead of through you. And you can teach this? This. Meditation. I can try," Mira said. "Though I should warn you, the cubs might not appreciate being woken up." As if on cue, one of the sleeping cubs toppled sideways with a soft thud, still fast asleep. Then another. Then Kesh, who curled into a ball and began purring, a sound Mira had learned was the Vraken version of contentment. Shara watched her. Cubs, these fierce little predators, sleeping peacefully in a room with a human, in a ship hurtling through hyperspace, vulnerable and trusting. Her 4 eyes glistened with something that might have been tears. "Teach me," Shara said quietly. "Teach me this human magic." Mira smiled and sat back down. "It's not magic, it's just breathing. But if you want to learn, sit with me. Close your eyes, and count to 4. The pack mother of the Vraken delegation lowered herself to the floor beside the human liaison. Above them, hyperspace streamed past in impossible colors. Around them, cubs snored in perfect peace. And in that moment, 2 species, predator and prey, chaos and calm, found common ground in the simple act of breathing together. Mira counted to 4 and the galaxy counted with her.